Hello everyone, this is God and Center with Matthew. We've been in the book of Joshua for the past few weeks, so we're in chapter 4 this week. I'm hoping to be, we should be wrapping it up next week, and then we'll go into something different. There's a particular chapter I want to look into. It just popped up on my feed, and it seems like that's maybe where God's pointing me at next. We'll see. So we'll go to chapter 4, and it came to sort of early. And it came to pass when all the people had completely crossed over the Jordan, that the Lord spoke to Joshua, saying, "Take yourselves 12 men from the people, one man from every tribe, and command them, saying, Take for yourselves 12 stones from here, out of the midst of the Jordan, from the place where the priest's feet stood firm. You shall carry them over with you and leave them in the lodging place where you lodged tonight." Then Joshua called the 12 men whom he had appointed from the children of Israel. One man came from every tribe, and Joshua said to them, "Cross over before the ark of the Lord your God is in the midst of the Jordan, and each one of you take up a stone on his shoulder according to the number of the tribes of the children of Israel, that this may be a sign among you when your children ask in time to come, saying, What does these stones mean to you? When your children ask in time, what do these mean to you? Then you shall answer them that the waters of the Jordan were cut off before the ark of the covenant of God when it crossed over the Jordan, and the waters of the Jordan were cut off, and these stones shall be for a memorial for the children of Israel forever." So God's clearing a path. You know, God's telling them to make a remembrance of like what. So it's all about us, letting God clear us a path to move forward into the next dimension of where He wants us at. But for us not to forget our past, what we came from. So that's what this whole pulling these stones out from. It's like, okay, so we're moving forward. I cleared a path out for you, but I don't want you to forget this path I cleared for you, because I did it. You didn't do this. I did it. And I think a lot of times we as people sometimes beat our own chest and say we did it. We did it. No, God did it. Because I remember I was working with somebody, and I'd always, and I've always really gave God the credit on anything that I've done, because I'm not good enough on anything without His grace and His mercy and His His push. God gave me every little gift I've had. I'm gifted at certain things, and certain things I'm just really not that great at. but when God has given me a gift, then and cleared a path for me, I always give Him the glory, because I can't do it without Him. And that's what God commands us to do, is for us to remember what He has done for us. So just don't forget God when He's cleared a path for you, and try to make yourself sound like you did it all, because you didn't. You ain't where you at unless God allowed it. The good and the bad. The bad things sometimes we have to go through for us to give glory to God, and but we have to work and strive towards our own goals. We can't expect just to throw these little Hail Mary prayers out to God and expect everything just to come together and us not do any kind of work at all to get there. So we're going to go to verse 10. So the priest who bore the ark stood in the midst of the Jordan until everything was finished that the Lord had commanded Joshua to speak to the people according to all that Moses had commanded Joshua. And the people hurried and crossed over. Then it came to pass that all the people completely crossed over the ark of the Lord, and the priests crossed over in the presence of the people. And the men of Reuben, the men of Gad, and half the tribes of Messiah crossed over armed before the children of Israel. As Moses had spoken them, about 40,000 prepared for war crossed over before the Lord for battle to the plains of Jericho. On that day the Lord exalted Joshua in the sight of all Israel, and they feared him, and they had feared Moses all the days of his life. That the Lord spoke to Joshua, saying, Command the priest who bear the ark of the testimony to come up from the Jordan. Joshua commanded the priest, saying, Come up from the Jordan. And it came to pass that the priest who bore the ark of the covenant of the Lord had came up in the midst of the Jordan, and the soles of the priest's feet touched the dry land, that the waters of the Jordan returned to their place and overflowed in all his banks before. Now the people came up from the Jordan on the earth that day, first month, and they camped in Gidal on the east border of Jericho. And those 12 stones which they took out of the Jordan, Joshua set up in Bethel. Then he spoke to the children of Israel, saying, When you children asked their father in time to come, saying, What are these stones? Then you shall let your children know, saying, Israel crossed over the Jordan on dry land. For the Lord your God dried up the waters of the Jordan before you until you had crossed over. And the Lord your God did to the Red Sea, which he dried up before us until we crossed over, that all the people of the earth may know that the hand of the Lord he is mighty, and you may fear the Lord your God forever. So it looks like it didn't mention that the waters crushed down on these people, but it was saying these armies was coming at them again. So this is like the second time that God's cleared an ocean and the people was coming after them. And when they got off the dry land, all of them got off securely. The waters had crushed the enemy. So it's just time after time. How many times has God saved you and pulled you out of the fire, pulled you out of like a bad situation, for us to only grumble and stuff, and for us to only that's what happened before. They was grumbling and mumbling even after all the stuff. And we hadn't got further into this, but it's like, do you trust in God? Do you know that God's got you? Because I'll tell you what, I've been through some stuff this last 2 years. Like, I've been through stuff my entire life, some major things, but for a while stuff's actually pretty good. There's been times in my life where things are really good. I went through a lot of stuff before I got the job at Doc's, and things were really good at Doc's. Really was. My life was really good. And then it actually got better when I got the job at the hospital. So there was like 4 years of my life that things was really, really great. 4 or 5, something like that. It was somewhere in between that time period. And then stuff just fell apart. It's like the water fell on top of me, like it wasn't holding up, and I don't know exactly what happened. I didn't fall out of God's grace, because I wasn't really doing anything that should have fell out of God's grace, but sometimes God just humbles us, and then I wouldn't be here. So we never really know which direction why God's allowing things to happen. Some people are atheists, so like they haven't got God's protection. I would hate to know that I was an atheist and didn't have God's protection over me, because without Him, man, I should have been dead or in prison a long time ago. So God's done saved these guys twice. He saved me way more than I can't even count on my hands and feet how many times God has saved me from disaster. I mean, I'm not trying to be dramatic or nothing, but I've been through a lot of things in my life, and I'm sure the audience, there's somebody out there that can relate, that they know that they would not be alive today if it wasn't for God. And for us not to acknowledge that, for us not to set aside these stones, so to speak, and put in our memory bank what God has done for us, and to be thankful, for even the small things. Like I took a hot shower today. That was very very nice. It could have been a cold shower. It could have been no shower at all. It could be that I was sleeping under a bridge. It could be a whole lot of things. It could be that I'm just fixing to lose everything because I ain't got no work. There's people out there that's going through this kind of stuff, and God will pull you out of it, but you have to work through it, work through it and pray, and you actually do something about it. I know that sometimes that things have looked bleak for me, and I just really didn't know what was going to happen. How I was going to get out of this mess. I was at a job that I really just, I don't know. I mean, I liked a lot of the people there, but I was also being bullied and picked on, and the money wasn't good. And actually, the last two jobs, a couple jobs, really. I mean, like I said, Doc's was a great job. And hindsight, looking back, I probably should have never left that job. Because at the end of the day, them guys did look out for me. And at the end of the day, I would have ended up going up, because they were actually opening up a store like 10 minutes from my house several years after I left the company. But I had done moved away. But, God, like I said, you can't really... and this stuff is normal to go through and question God of why this happened or that happened. I mean, it's just our human nature to question why all these things happened. Why was these guys in the desert 40 years? I'm sure that was going through a daily discussion with God about why we're out here. So. That story's there for us to let us know that, like, there were some people that went through way more than what we're going through. At least we're not in the desert for 40 years. I haven't been in turmoil for 40 years. I haven't been stuck in a bad position for 40 years. And they was enslaved before that. So just think about that. Like, these people really went through the ringer. And, for me just to only have went through, like, parts of my life to where it was, like, bad, I've got to be very thankful to God that He didn't put me in some kind of out there in the wilderness like that. I may have had seasons in the wilderness, but it was be thankful that it's only for a season. Whenever you're going through something, be thankful that it's not there forever. And I don't know. That's about all I've got today. I just want everybody to remember to be thankful to God for every little small thing that God does bless us with, and for us to remember the things He pulled us out of. It's all about remembering what God has done for us, and not what God's allowed us to be put through. It's about how He's managed to pull us out, because it ain't God that's necessarily putting us in some of these situations. We put ourselves, and then the devil works with it too. God does allow the things, but He's not actually the one purposely hurting us. We hurt ourselves, and then the devil works. Sometimes we let the devil's in the door, so to speak, and we allow things like that to happen. Making bad decisions. I don't know how many bad decisions I've made in my life, but if I had a nickel for every bad decision I'd make, I could probably retire right now. It's just all I can say is let us make better decisions, and then for us, if you have not been baptized, go get baptized. And I've got another thing I'm going to be working on Ezekiel next, I think. I seen something pop up, and God spoke to me about that, but I've got to read, and it may not be that, it may be that. God speaks to me in different kind of ways, and I just sort of let that lead. We should be wrapping up Joshua next week. Should be, but who knows what God's got planned. I just want to tell each and every one of y'all I love y'all and appreciate y'all joining in. Until next week, y'all have a blessed week.